Only one place to start this hour, and that's with the latest major opinion poll to predict that the Tories are heading for electoral wipeout next week. An MP poll of more than 19,000 people says Labour will win with a majority of 250, and it predicts that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, would lose his seat as the Liberal Democrats overtake the Conservatives and become the official opposition. Let's go through the key figures. Now on the poll has Labour winning 450 seats, as I just said, has the Liberal Democrats getting more MPs than the Tories with their Davis party on 71, the Conservatives meanwhile are on just 60, and next comes the SNP on 24, and the poll projects that Reform will win 18 seats and the Greens and Plaid Cymru have 4 seats each. And next, when it comes to the share of the vote, well, Lab, as you can see, are on 40% of the vote. And they're followed in second place by Reform on 18%, 2 percentage points ahead of the Conservatives on 16, in third, and then come the Liberal Democrats on 13% with the Greens on 8%. Now the poll will also predict that a total of 22 cabinet ministers will lose their seats at the general election, and they include the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden, the Chancellor of the ex-Jair Jeremy Hunt, and also Kemi Badok, who's the favourite with bookmakers. To be the next Conservative leader. Well, I'm now joined by GB News's political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, I'm quite a set of figures to go through here. Let's pick through the top lines. The biggest line is a widening gap between the Conservatives and the Labour Party, if you believe the polls, with a record major ID predicted here for the Labour Party.
That's right. Hi Martin. Yeah, you've got 250 majority for the Conservative, for the Labour Party. The Labour Party, forgive me, with the Tory Party push into third place with just 60 MPs. They're going backwards from where they were in a similar electoral calculus. Find out now. Poll that we revealed on GB News at the start of the campaign. Back then it was around 72 Tory MP. He now down to 60. May show the impact of the resurgent Reform UK party under Nigel Farage, of course. Since then we have had a few missteps by this campaign, run by Rishi Sunak. The day issue coming got back early for me was widely criticized by his own side for that, and then of course the gambling gate story ongoing. A couple of candidates have been had the support withdrawn by Rishi Sunak. He's been in battle because of that, so he hasn't had the best of luck or the best of campaigns, frankly, for the Tory Prime Minister. The eye-catching thing though, the Liberal Democrats become the official opposition, according to this polling by electoral calculus. And find out now. Reform UK gets, wait for it, 18 MPs. You'll see Nigel Farage in the House of Commons, Richard T.I. Upham, he'll be in the House of Commons, Lee Anderson. These are names you'd never thought would have happened before. Before Njah Barris chose to come back as a party's leader just 3 or 4 short weeks ago. Labour's best results since the 1930s, the Tories' worst one since 1900 history. Made across the board 22 cabinet ministers to lose their seats. That's virtually the entire cabinet losing their seats. Who's left? James Cleverly, Home Secretary Steve Barclay, the Environment Secretary Mark Harper, the Transport Secretary Lucy Fraser, Laura Trott, Tom Toonhat, Mike Tom, the Immigration Minister. Not many also don't forget Jeremy Corbyn. He wins Islington North from Labour. So quite an extraordinary set of results here again. The only poll that matters, as I'm sure. We'll hear from the Tories tonight when they see this poll as July the 4th, that's Thursday next week, but people are voting now. 1 in 5 of us vote in postal ballots, and so that'll be a worry. I think that these numbers are coming out. This poll between the 14th of June and the 24th of June, that's just yesterday, Martin, so a shocking poll here, for the Tory party, and alarming Maybe for Labour I was coming walking into this venue here and I'm now in the spin room. Getting ready for the two-way debate, the final head-to-head debate between Rishi Sunak and CR Dharma, and one senior Labour figure said to me, they are very worried. He said that they wake up on Friday next week to an almighty shock and these polls are all wrong. So right now Labour is worried that these polls forecasting a super majority for Labour Party are wrong, but as things stand they're all saying the same thing. Either the polls are wrong or Labour's in for an enormous shock next week.
Now of course polls are polls, no polls predicted Brexit, no polls predicted Donald Trump would get elected, and yet, Chris, we are seeing a trend emerging, and it seems to be a trend of a widening majority, a decreasing of conservative vote, and as you said, an increase in Liberal Democrats and an increase in the Reform votes. With each poll that goes, the Reform have been cast to get 0 seats in a YouGov poll. And in a Telegraph poll, and then it was 5 seats BPON, and YouGov now 18 in this poll. There seems to be 3 trends in parallel there, going on, Chris, and maybe across this many polls there's something in this movement.
Well, it might be, but looking at the breakdown of the share of the vote, 40% vote Labour, 20% vote Conservative, 11% vote Lib Dems, and they get 71 MPs, 18% vote Reform, and they get 18 MPs. Now this is why you're hearing from Nigel Farage calls for some form of electoral reform. Why is it that you can get a third less in, according to this, in vote share than the Liberal Democrat, than more than Liberal Democrats, forgive me. But get a fraction of their MPs, and that's not fair. They would say the reason why that is, of course, is that Reform UK, a relatively new party, a rebadged Brexit party from 2019, doesn't know where voters are. Martin, the older parties are Tories, Lib Dems and Labour. They know where the voters live, they know what doors to knock on. Remind Mrs. Miggins at number 42 Cass Avenue to make sure she votes. Nowhere to go, cause not a lot of people move around between elections. Reform UK has no idea where they are if they get 18 MPs. I do find that very extraordinary, because that'll mean that essentially a social media campaign with no idea where any other their supporters live has gone from 0 to 18 MPs now, given the Liberal Democrats are around a dozen or so, and they've been around well in their current form since the early 90s or late 80s. I find 18 MPs extraordinary in his for a challenger party.
Thanks for watching this video.